Welcome to Brothers-In-Flaw Sports. I'm your host, Normie. We have our other host over here, Cunado. And down at the bottom, you love him, you know him, Santana.
So,
How y'all doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Just watched the latest episode of X-Men 97, and well, that was a trip.
I heard people had to watch it through their fingers. Like,
it's good shit.
I would say I haven't seen it yet. I just don't have Disney Plus, so I figured I'd wait and
Hit me up after the show, Normie. I'll hook you up.
Okay. But yeah, you doing good, Santana?
Oh yeah, man, living the dream.
Living the dream. I wish I was living the dream. I wish my back would quit hurting.
What'd you do to your back?
I don't know. It's an old football injury that's kind of come back to resurface, at an inopportune time. Just making some progress on running, and then so it came back with a vengeance. I was only able to get about 2 miles in today, and I should have gotten none. I should have just taken the day off, but I'm here. Of course, the other night,
like a champion.
The other night, I got to go see the opener song, the band that plays that song. Got to go see them the other night, Sabaton. Me and the wife, Huntsville.
Oh, nice.
So we got to go see them. They're touring with Judas Priest, so they're a band from Sweden. So they usually when they come over here, they're usually an opener. So they open for them, but they got done, and then my wife. It's like, well, do you kind of want to stay for? And it was like, I have no desire to see Judas Priest. Let's go. Of course, I hadn't
seen what I need to see.
Yeah, like I came for what I wanted. Like, well, they have like a tank on stage that they build, and we stayed to watch them, take it down, and they took it down really fast. We were pretty shocked of how big the damn thing was, but it was fun.
I mean, never underestimate the power of a good roadie team.
Oh yeah, and they had a lot of them too. So they and it seemed like all of them knew exactly what they were doing. Every single thing. It wasn't somebody just running around like, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? No, they had it down. And
no, I've seen them, man. Like they work like as integral as AI could possibly put together as far as like machine work. Like they know exactly the next steps to throw something up, take it down, this, that, or the other. It is incredibly impressive to watch an in rhythm roadie team. And apparently Sabaton has one. So
oh yeah,
congrats, Sabaton.
But yeah, I was like, I have no desire to see Judas Priest, and I hadn't seen the wife in about 2 weeks, and I was like, I'd rather spend that time with you than watching this band that I don't care zero about. And even the we were walking out, and the like security people were like, are y'all sure? Like, you don't know if y'all leave, y'all can't come back, right? And it's like, yeah, we know.
We're good.
We're good.
We did what we came here to do.
And they were like, oh, okay, yeah. But it was fun. It was really fun.
Good.
This episode brought to you by K9 Carry Outs. And also, Santana, you're looking especially Jeff Bridge-esque tonight.
As soon as I saw when the camera popped up, I was like, I'm putting off a vibe here. I like
Next, you won't be having a natural light. You'll have your a little White Russian or something.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a company that specializes in White Russian, but I'll start tagging them.
Yeah,
especially maybe just Kahlua.
Just tag Kahlua.
Kahlua. That'll work. Start tagging Kahlua and Natty.
And like Purity for the half and half.
All right. I'm telling you, I'm gonna get us a sponsor. I don't know if just incessantly tagging people is the way to go about it, but it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And Cunano, there over your left shoulder is the shelf
for the K9. The K9.
The K9. The treats, the Buster treats.
So we need to start tagging them.
Yeah,
And also, I think Tide maybe.
Tide. Yeah,
It is Tide right there.
And, and Bowls.
And
tagging Sabaton.
And
And just
Sabaton.
It's our opener.
and just a big old bowl that does nothing other than just be a bowl.
Yeah, Normie, I'm disappointed that you went all the way to Huntsville and you didn't fight to get backstage to, again, where we're pursuing sponsors.
Yeah, and find that PR person.
Yeah.
Actually, I should have. I talked to the lead singer, so I should have just, me and him are just like buddies anyway. Like,
Boys, just boys hanging.
Yeah. Next time. They'll be in Mobile on Sunday, so.
Okay. Yeah. Catch up.
I was actually tempted to I thought about it for a second for just to go there, but nah, the money. Need to save it. I already saw him, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is a sports show, so we need to probably get into it. And a couple weeks ago, had something special happen. The Stallions continue their run this past weekend. Adrian Martinez is looking like that dude. He threw some beautiful passes.
This is actually the first game of the year where I literally didn't even see a snap. So I'm going to just have to let you talk us through it there. For me personally, I don't know about Santana, but yeah.
I mean,
I didn't see a snap of it.
Well, they the team they were playing had a really good defensive scheme. They pretty much were like, Martinez is not running. And they held him to I think 27 yards rushing.
Oh,
but
wow.
they made him beat them with his arm, and he did. So, yeah, Memphis had a good defensive plan, but it's just, it's one of those things. He's going to beat us with his arm, and he beat him with his arm.
Well, we briefly touched on it last week that he was a different guy from Nebraska to K-State, and to continue to see his growth is pretty just entertaining, even if I wasn't a Birmingham fan or just a sports fan in general, to watch a young guy continue to get better and better and go from a guy who could only run to a guy who can now beat you with his arm pretty consistently.
Yeah. And I will always advocate for the UFL or any kind of spring league for guys just like him who maybe, who went to the NFL, got on, early preseason kind of thing, but didn't really, just didn't really click then. But now is getting meaningful snaps in and meaningful tape in. So I will always advocate for a spring league like this because it's
100%.
it's only gonna make, it makes the spring league better because then you got guys that are coming in that just, hey, I'll go there, I'll play a year or two, then I'll go to the NFL. But also makes the NFL better because you got seasoned guys coming in.
Yeah, rising tides raises all ships, and that's all that a spring league can do, as long as it's got good viewership, which so far the UFL and USFL already had, and then the XFL also had a decent amount. Them combining, I actually think, was a marriage made in heaven, and it seems like the NFL is also kind of stepping in and kind of backing them as well. I think not backing them. I think they're financially on their own, but sorry.
But even just even mentioning them, because that costs nothing on their part. They have there's no commitment, no money changing hands, anything. Just even just mentioning it, it does cost a little money, but not much.
Well, and it's we mentioned McCarron last week being able to bounce back and forth, and Magoo went from Birmingham to Green Bay's team. You see a lot more scouting happening from that league also, which is pretty cool. And then while y'all were talking about that just then, I was thinking about the impact that NIL will have in college and in both sets of pros, because if we look at the 58 underclassmen declared this year for the draft, lowest in 3 years, and top 10 lowest in however long. More college kids staying in college because they can make money, versus also having another avenue. I feel like there's going to be a divide where like a lot more talent is going to get funneled over to the spring league, because there will be like older guys that could go staying because they're making the financial, like making money to stay in college. So there's not like a jump, like they're not desperate to get to the NFL and probably barely make a practice squad or barely make a roster or whatever, whereas they can just stay for 5 years and then jump over to the UFL, develop even more over there. We may even start seeing an even more, like a bigger number of guys going from spring league to the NFL just the way with some of these guys are playing and how good the product is.
Well, it's kind of like what we've seen in the G League with the NBA and NCAA college basketball, where they opened up because up until 2007, 2008, and then obviously before that, you couldn't go from high school to pro. Then everybody decided, or not everybody, enough people decided that these people who are ready to go play pro, it's not that, and it's a physical sport, don't get me wrong, but if these cats are ready, they're ready. LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, Kevin Garnett, etc. But
they didn't need business school.
Exactly. They're ready to go. And then with football, there seemed to be a bit more of a hang up because it is, you need to let your body mature a little bit more, this, there, the whatever. I don't care.
Well,
but
and to like, a pickup, you can practice basketball and practice real game situations a lot easier than you could ever do with football. Like, these guys can go out and easily do like a pickup basketball game and it be close to the real thing. Whereas you can't really go out and do a like full contact pickup football game.
Yeah, no, 100%. And
whereas they can, even from an early age, continue to, gain that skill, practice. Whereas football, it's a lot harder to kind of do that.
But then in basketball, I don't know why or what politics are behind it. I've never looked into it. They said, okay, they at least have to play a year.
Yeah.
So then that was happening, and then a lot of these cats would come in and play a year, injured on the bench for most of the year type thing, and
take underwater basket weaving as classes.
Bingo, and then like just go to the league. But then they were like, okay, fine, go to college, and the NBA had to make this agreement with I don't know if it was the NCAA or whoever they had to make the agreement with. It was like, okay, they can't come straight into the league from high school, but they can either go to college or go to the G League. And now with NIL, that's basically what college football and college basketball, like a lot of things, is probably going to hurt the G League tremendously. I actually think, like Santano was saying, it will probably help the spring leagues, where like there's a lot of guys who just need time to develop, and they just need that time to shine.
Well,
in fact,
time and snaps.
Yeah,
time and snaps. I mean,
meaningful snaps.
Yeah, it's hard to get better at something if you're not doing it, and it's hard in college to get meaningful snaps, let alone you get to that next level. Like your second team and third team don't take, like, it's not high school. Like, you're not getting a bunch of snaps for everybody. You're getting like during the week, your practice snaps are all for the ones, unless it's a veteran day or something like that. And
or you just happen to have like maybe like defensive line is like one of the few ones where you would roll in, like the twos get a lot of meaningful snaps, but like pretty much every other position, like offensive linemen, they don't go off the field. Like,
what was Adrian Martinez supposed to do in a spot in the NFL, or what was Corral supposed to do in the NFL when during the week you're not throwing hardly at all other than in warm-ups? Like, you're not running through the plays, you're not scrimmaging, you're not doing any of that.
And even when you are scrimmaging, I mean, it's a no contact.
It's no contact, and then also if maybe you're the scout team quarterback, maybe you're the playing against the one, so you're running an offense that doesn't even belong to you, so you're doing something different every week. There's no continuity. There's no comfort level that you ever gain. So, and you've talked about it a few times, Normie, about Skip Holt saying both of these guys are going to get film, and for him to have that mentality is awesome because, like you said, this is what this league should be for, and seems to be looking like that's what it's going to be, is like developing these guys to where like you're going to get another shot. And again, AJ McCarron very specifically said, I'm doing that. I could make more money sitting in the NFL, but I'm doing this so I can play, so my kids can see me. Martinez is going, I could make more money sitting in the NFL, but like I could maybe come down here and build my reputation a little bit better and actually end up playing a little bit at the next level.
Yep.
So it's fun. I'm pro. I'm all about it.
And this week, speaking of AJ McCarron, he's coming home. First time in Alabama as playing a pro game. So he's coming back to Birmingham playing the Stallions. Should be a fun game. I know they've opened up the Battlehawks. Memphis is the showboat.
St. Louis Battlehawks.
Yeah.
It is the Memphis Showboats. Yeah. Take my word on it, guys. I'm an expert.
That's why we pay you the big bucks.
Yep, you get the big ones. All those sponsor dollars, that's for this man right here.
Yep.
We got to keep him happy.
Right there, guys.
But you were talking about that, sorry to cycle back, but you were talking about that G League, but maybe that would be an opportunity too, where the G League would see like, okay, well, if these kids can just stay in college, it may hurt our league. Maybe we should start bumping up our pay for the G League to kind of attract more and more talent, which would also then attract more attention to it.
Well, and I wonder if there was any influence, like, because there was a few years in a row there before NIL got going that Auburn was in the hunt. Auburn basketball was in the hunt for one of the top guys in the nation. And it seemed like 2 or 3 years there that we missed out on. They didn't pick another school. They went to the G League. And so I wonder if that had any impact on the NCAA being like, okay, yeah, screw it. Y'all do whatever you want. Like, we can't have our potential best players not even playing in our league because they can just make the jump to the G League.
Yeah.
Could be Santana. Have you guys seen that Congress is voting on a bill this week to reinstate / support the NCAA committee? I thought to myself, well, this isn't capitalism.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if you suck so bad that you failed.
That's
Probably time to tear down and restart. But I don't know. I haven't read any of the details on it. That was the headline for me. But it was quite literally a headline right after I'd seen Santana today. And I was like, this seems like we're working backwards.
Yeah. We finally got it kind of right.
I mean, at this point in time, you know what the moneymaker is. It's college football. Let's let the Big Ten and the SEC decide what the shit goes on. Like,
or you keep pushing it, and then the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, Big 12 are going to say, you know what, to hell with you. We're done. We're not dealing with the NCAA anymore. We got our own league.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like why would you give this archaic somebody who seems like they've had their head either in their sand or up their ass for so long, and then you want to kind of like re-empower them? Yeah. Screw that, man. Like, it kind of like Santana was saying, it's like, well, I mean, I guess the NIL thing has happened, and I guess we'll just let it happen. It's like, yeah, no, probably should have a long time ago. You guys could have gotten way out in front of this, and you could have made rules for it. because you made rules on all the other bullshit that didn't matter. But
Or
this one got away from you because
Yeah.
you thought that you had enough control of $1 billion+ I think they were like a $5-6 billion a year industry to what? Stick their thumbs up their ass? I mean, like, come on. Like, you had plenty of time. This was not like this didn't sneak up on you.
Yeah.
You just refused to acknowledge it.
And had you not refused to acknowledge it and had to not, not dug your heels in, you could have actually set something up prior to it.
Yeah, and then when
And
it
instead
finally
of
we don't have any control, they're like, well, screw
yeah,
it.
yeah.
You guys
Now
do
it's
what you want.
now it's the Wild West of NIL is just like a Wild West now.
And now
People
every
doing all
college
sorts of
coach
crap.
and every like student who has a bone to pick, they're either going to their state senators or their actual like U.S. senators and asking for help, which I think is the worst thing that could possibly happen if I do not want to espouse any kind of political views. I just think that if the government gets involved in college football or football period, well then I don't care for it.
To be fair, it was the government that saved football. Teddy Roosevelt. That's
point.
Maybe for another episode, but
there's no Teddy
point.
Roosevelts now.
Yeah, and that was over 100 years
That's
ago.
true,
But, it's a fair point.
But say now it's that whole mentality of the most jarring and fear-inducing thing you could ever hear is I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like, oh no, fuck no. You get away from me.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No. I don't want your help.
I'll just go home now.
Unless the government wants to sponsor us. In which
Yes.
case, this show brought to you by the government.
Just the government.
But we could do this show for the next 50 years, and if I will pay you right out of my wallet, as long as I've got it, I will pay you $1,000 if the government and any single one branch says, I want to sponsor you. That's yours.
Just as the world keeps progressing and everybody has a podcast or a show at some point, like there's going to be a section of the government specifically for it. And we're all charming and lovely. So I think that we'd probably get a little bit of dollars for it.
I might have actually talked out of my ass there. Like I might be eating those words, but hey, I'll stand by my word. $1,000. But if any part of the government, if it's the DOT, you guys don't drive on this show, but I bet
we can start doing it from the road.
Yeah,
start doing it from the road and being sponsored by Natty. That's
yeah.
real sports. That's a real sports show. Is what I'm.
As long as it's not Aldot, God, I could go a whole episode about how terrible Aldot is. My wife can attest to this. I hate Aldot.
I bet.
Especially where I live right now. Like they truly screwed us. But anyway, let's get off the government talk.
Yeah,
head on over to that draft. So last week we got picks 1 through 17. We wanted to kind of stop at half, but we had already talked about the Minnesota Vikings because they had a pick earlier. So the next one we would start at would be at Cincinnati Bengals.
The Amarius Mims pick. Crazy athletic offensive tackle out of Georgia. Massive
gigantic
man.
6'8", 340. That is.
I don't think that you could go wrong right there. I think it was a great pick. Bengals need to. I mean, Burrow is becoming Joe Burrow. That is becoming a injury risk as is. He's only really played 2 out of his 4 years. When he's playing, I think he is elite, top 5, top 6 at least, top 7 minimum. But he gets hit a lot, and he doesn't do a ton to take care of himself at points in time. But I think a 6'8", 340-pound tackle who can move around, very versatile. I think it's a big pickup. I think it's a great pick.
Once you get past Joe Alt, basically all the tackle prospects are going to be developmental guys, which I think is where a lot of like actual experts think that they not missed on this, but it just wasn't that like slam dunk of a pick.
Yeah.
Kenyatta, I 1,000% agree with you. You and I have been screaming draft offensive lineman for Joe Burrow since he got there.
I remember the first year we did this, and it was his going into his second year, and
I was instead of Penei Sewell.
Yeah, and I was showing off Joe Burrow's fresh scar from where he had his knee worked on.
Yeah, and so I mean, just continuing to build on that offensive line, and I think that yes, you can't go wrong with a monster who can move like this. I'm not going to continue to say Tyler Guyton's name, but I've seen those two guys being interchangeable because they're giant and athletes and have some room to grow. But again, after Joe Alt, like there wasn't a can't miss offensive lineman in this draft after Alt, really. I love the Chris Jenkins pick in the second round. Normie, I don't know how much you love Jermaine Burton, but I think that adding a receiver in the third is a big deal because especially they'd let Boyd go.
Burton's a weird one. He has his games. If he's on, he is on. But if he's not, like you won't even like hear his name mentioned. And he is quick to he's a little quick to anger sometimes, or just maybe to mouthing off. Maybe not anger, just he gets in the moment sometimes when especially he shouldn't. Like a good long play, you just made a great catch, great play, and then you get up and start, jaw jacking, and and that, especially NFL right now. I mean, look, that happened to the Ravens.
Yeah, it did.
It did.
Well, I can go ahead and tell you guys that the Bengals won the draft, and can either of you guys tell me why I think that?
The Iowa tight end.
They had drafted an Iowa tight end.
Yep.
Eric All was one of the higher rated tight ends. A lot of people had him in the discussion to be the first tight end off the board after Brock, obviously. And they, at this point, I wouldn't have to look at any tape. I would just go, whatever's tight end is coming out of Iowa, I'll allow it. I'll take him.
Or whichever 2 or 3 are coming out of that school.
Yeah.
My God. If you're drafting Iowa tight end, you're setting yourself up for success. Or at least a good tight end.
Yeah, at least a good tight end. May not be successful, but at least you'll know that guy will work out.
All right, let's see here. All right, next up we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at 20. No, I'm kidding.
That's fun. I'm fine with skipping my guys.
This is the one that I wanted to talk about the most. It's a team that I was extremely proud of.
I think I've seen us rated from B- to A. I've never seen an A+ yet, but I also, some of the tape watching Guyton is him whipping versus ass all game long. But when we got him, I was watching the draft with Santana. I fist pumped, got up, fuck yeah, yes. I was pumped. That's the guy who I wanted. I didn't know if we would make it there. Obviously, the guy who I really, really wanted and didn't think that we'd get, but it was kind of tumbling backwards for Brock Bowers. But no, Verse was who I thought was achievable, and if we got him, I thought that we'd win. And I'm I'm psyched about that. And then we get to pair him with his buddy, Braden Fisk, who a lot of people say is a bad pick, but I've watched tape on him, and I'm almost equally as impressed by Fisk as I am Verse. Obviously, we need help on the offensive line because we're replacing Aaron Donald. Like, we're replacing a greatest of all time. It's not going to be one person. It's going to be a committee.
Yeah, you're replacing a guy who takes up at least 2 offensive linemen every play. Sometimes
Bingo.
3 offensive linemen.
Yeah,
Like, I've seen those those plays where like 3 offensive linemen are blocking him, and he's still like gaining ground. So those are huge shoes to fill.
Well, and it is clear that McVay and them are aware of what they're missing, and they clearly have a plan to start stacking that defensive front. I don't know if it's the consistent losing to San Francisco, who is a team that constantly has their front 7 stacked, but clearly you lose one of the greatest of all time. You just had a bunch of rookies perform last year for you, a bunch of young guys perform for you last year, and then out of your picks, you go 4 defensive linemen. So I think that they had a plan. I think they went in and executed their plan well. I thought the Verse pick and the Fisk pick were amazing. I love adding Blake Corum behind Kyron Williams.
As in the 3rd round.
That one confused me.
That's a great pick there.
That one confused me just because of the success for Kyron Williams last year. I was like, man, like we might have just got the best running back.
Maybe in the draft. Look, dude, you don't have like who are your guys? Now you had some guys perform well when Kyron went in last year, but like solidifying that backup spot.
No, I love it. I think
that was
me, but I felt lucky.
I love Jordan Whittington from Texas in the 6th. Texas had a few guys come out that obviously went much higher than this, but this guy was productive in college too. So you had another receiver to the receiver room that was not hurting at all.
And we just got rid of Skoranek to the Texans.
Yeah, and you'll probably spend. I mean, what y'all got like a 6th out of that, right?
Late round swap. We didn't we just swapped.
Yeah, but I think y'all got like I think you gave your 7th and got their 6th. So I mean, and you could. I don't know. Just I thought it was a really solid draft. I thought that they executed well.
No, I was pumped. As a fan of this team, I was really pumped coming out of that. I mean, first off, it's the first time that we've drafted in the 1st round since 2016. 8 years.
8 years, man.
So when we got Jared Verse, I was like, we didn't fuck it up.
Yep.
That was my first thought. I was like,
you didn't get a quarterback that you didn't need.
We didn't.
And you also didn't trade up into the 2nd round to get like the 5th or 6th defensive tackle. Because I was looking at that, and I think Brandon Fisk went after a certain team picked a defensive tackle.
Yeah, no, I was really happy with what we did, and agreed with the Jordan Whittington pick, Santana, and of course we had to go Joshua Carty. Although, screw Joshua Carty, we shouldn't have gotten a place kicker. We should just be banging the door down, and I can't think of his name right now. Nori, you might be able to help me out.
Bates from the Michigan Panthers.
Yeah, I want him.
Honestly, all those kickers have seemed like they're like doing really good.
But we've struggled on that front, and it's the 6th round, so it's NBD.
I mean, you didn't go like a Raiders and get him like the 1st round or something.
Yeah,
of course they got everybody laughs at that pick, but Janikowski was there for a very long time and did a lot of things for them. He wasn't worth a 1st round pick.
20 years.
He wasn't worth a 1st round pick, but you could have got him in like the third. Like,
That was definitely Al Davis on his meds, but like, he was deep on the pills. But and I say that jokingly for anybody who watches this, But um, I don't know. I don't know if you wasted your pick. Like you were saying, Normie. I mean, like, damn, the guy was a super solid, consistent kicker for 20 years. Why not? I mean, it's tough to find a kicker in the NFL. Talking to a Rams fan, we cutting them left and right. I was like just bummed when we cut Greg Zuerlein. Like super bummed, and we haven't been consistent at kicker since then. And he's Greg the leg. I mean, that sucker he was pretty accurate from 60 yards and in. And then since then, we've had some people who can hit it when they're on and then miss 3 chip shots in a row. I mean, kicking's tough in the NFL. But
and they don't. There's very little room for error. Like they don't.
Oh yeah, they will cut you that week.
Yeah.
As a Rams fan, I've watched it happen like 15 different times now since we let Greg go. Like yep, that guy missed 3 field goals last game. See ya. Well, who the hell are you going to replace him with?
One of the better kickers in the league right now for Las Vegas, Daniel Carlson, was cut by Minnesota.
Worst decision of that GM's life.
So, that's what he says. He claims that.
The GM, not Daniel.
Yeah,
and the guy that's in Atlanta now, he was cut from the Chargers, was it?
Younghoe Koo, yes.
Yeah, and how can you cut that? That name is so cool, and he's so good.
But they cut him, and then he went to Atlanta, and he's been doing fine in Atlanta.
I mean, yips happen, and kicking's tough. I mean, I say kicking's tough like I know I've never done it, but I mean, you're dancing on a razor's edge the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And an NFL team, you are so expendable.
Yeah. I was looking at y'all's depth chart. I know I heard what happened. Why is Jimmy Garoppolo suspended again?
Performance enhancing drugs.
Okay. I thought it was that.
If you have seen that body, then you would understand. That is one sexy dude at the quarterback position. Look at that face. Look at that jawline. Yeah. Look at the dimples.
Yep. And they're like perfect. Like,
yeah.
I'm just glad that he threw 7 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. I can't wait for him to be a Ram.
Hey, dude, he thrives in that system. So
I hope.
And then I heard Stetson Bennett's, supposed to be coming back for preseason camp.
Yeah. Quarterback depth for an aging Matt Stafford, a suspended Jimmy Garoppolo, and whatever the hell happened with this guy. That's not my favorite. I was actually kind of hoping that we could get somebody like if everybody had drafted like sane people, like a guy like Bo Nix or Michael.
Well, also like I have to wonder too, like, is Stetson Bennett really that good to be worth all the stuff that they've gone through already? I mean, and especially you got guys like even just like guys from last year in the USFL, XFL, those guys can't come in and do something.
Well, and here's the thing, Normie. What did they go through? They did such a good job locking it up. Like, all we could do is speculate what it was. And I've heard multiple different things.
But even if whatever it was, like, is it
worth putting up with? I don't know. It's insane. No, like, and I agree.
Well, like you're looking,
is it worth it? Probably not.
Well, and you're looking on on Saturday and Sunday right now, and you're seeing Adrian Martinez just balling out. Like, are these teams going to be like, oh well, we'll keep a guy like Stetson Bennett as our third guy, but yeah.
McVay has shown since the spring leagues have come back that he's willing to add guys. McVay and Les Snead have shown that they're willing to bring in those spring guys for a spot on the roster.
Oh,
I don't know, Kenyatta, why we are overlooking the Dresser win selection over here and on the 4th spot there. You're not impressed? Not I think that your Dresser win guy going to overtake the other two. What do you think about that?
Dresser from UT Martin.
From UT Martin, of UT Martin fame.
Yeah.
Look at that face. He's a killer. Born killer.
He looks like Buster. He looks
It
like
does look-
Buster.
He does look
He looks like Buster.
Walking
He's got that
and
yeah.
he's waiting for a treat.
Looks like he smelled something weird. And that's a victory. That's what he's smelling.
Yeah. He looks like one of those guys that's like, he's probably thinking like, I'm in way over my fucking head right now. Like, I didn't think I would get this to this point. But I gotta act cool and act, and not smile in my picture. I can't look like, I can't look like this in my picture.
Nobody can though, man. Only models can look like that in their pictures.
I was pretty bummed when we didn't hang on to Carson Wentz.
I thought for sure you would.
That was like a match made, but maybe not a match made in heaven, but like that worked. Santana and me watched that. Obviously, it was 2s on 2s, not 1s on 1s, but watching that, and Santana was like, well, holy fucking shit! He just changed the whole offense. We're just gonna run the ball with Carson Wentz.
Now we're a read option team.
With Carson Wentz as our quarterback.
McVay blew off the RG3 playbook. Don't worry, I got some things.
No, I was bummed we didn't retain him, but obviously he wants to be a starter and climbing his way, hopefully back up the ladder for him. I don't know. I don't know. I was really pleased with the draft though. And yeah, no, that's all I got to say with it. I was pleased. Like I said, I've seen this as low as a B-. I've seen this as high as an A. As a fan, I'd say an A. There was very few things that I didn't like. Quarterback room is suspect, but couldn't really solve them in this fucking draft, right?
No,
everybody went.
Well, and especially when a certain team decides that they're gonna do something crazy, and totally destroy it all.
At 8.
Yeah,
yeah, you got Penix going at 8, and Bo Nix going at 12. Like,
yeah, like
the only app drafted quarterback I saw was Jordan Travis in the 6th, and if he hadn't broken his leg, he probably goes in the 2nd.
Yeah.
And we still know we got a few good years out of Stafford, so we can't jump up and go grab him. I would have loved Jordan Travis though, but in fact, I don't know, but I think Jordan Travis could have a really good NFL career, but we'll see.
He landed in a good spot. If
100%.
Aaron plays for a few more years, we already talked about it, but if Aaron plays for a few more years, and I mean, it's not like that roster is lacking in New York. They were lacking a very important position last year, but we all saw how that turned out.
Yeah, 4 plays later.
4 plays.
All right, next up we got the Pittsburgh Steelers, who picked at 20, and they went with an offensive guard, Troy Fontu. I don't know. I'm gonna butcher it. Hey, Cunyato.
I think it's Fontenot.
Fontenot.
Yeah. Or Fontenot. But
you ought to know.
Ought to know. Yeah.
Fontanu. Fontanu. Let's just.
Somebody.
I mean, I'm already terrible with names.
Somebody Google this thing.
Cody's on here. I'm pretty sure. Cody, use words knowledge.
Yeah.
Tell us what that says.
Give us a phonetic breakdown, buddy. No, I think that's a good pick.
Yeah.
Well, what they have been
offensive line, like, as long as you're not like swinging like stupidly, they
Yeah.
generally pay off. Generally, like even if they don't work for your team, they become good trade capital. Offensive lineman is a sure thing.
Well, and it's
It's
something
safe.
that Pittsburgh has been missing. An identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers is their offensive line, and it's
Mhm.
something that they have been missing for 3, 4, maybe more than that years.
Since
And
Pouncey left or
for
Pouncey
sure,
retired.
and
And now,
and you know, it's crazy that Najee has rushed for 1,000 yards in 3 straight years because the offensive line has been garbage. It's been his effort alone that has gotten him to that point, and they addressed a major need with their first 2 picks. And again, not like Kenyatta was saying, it's almost a can't miss because even if they don't end up being as good as you thought that they were going to be, they do end up. I mean, they're at least depth, like just putting meat in the bucket at that type of point. I love the Roman Wilson pick from Michigan because that's another area of need for Pittsburgh badly is the wide receiver room.
Mhm.
I hope they do more work this offseason. I was kind of thinking they probably should have bid a little bit higher to go get OBJ. Sorry.
Uh,
Not that I know, like,
uh,
I don't think he is what he once was, but like Santana was saying, like, they need work.
I mean, they did pick up Van Jefferson.
I do love Van Jefferson as a Rams fan. I will miss him.
So yeah, I think that was a good, and then 3rd round too. And again, got another offensive guard in the 4th. So yeah, like Santana was saying, they're definitely trying to work on that offensive line,
Well, they
Yeah.
need to.
and they
I mean,
needed to.
again, Pittsburgh is one of those teams that's not far off either. They hopefully for Steelers fans address the quarterback situation this offseason. You would hope that either of the 2 guys you made moves for would be an upgrade over what you did the last couple of years. Yeah,
Are you telling
they
me Russell
move on from
Wilson's
DeAndre
better than
Johnson.
Kenny Pickett?
Dude, honestly, I mean, Kenny Pickett. I was all about just giving the kid a chance until he threw a fit and got himself traded to like an even worse position. If he had kept his mouth shut and just said, "Yeah, I'll learn from a future Hall of Famer,"
Yeah,
then he
buckle
would have.
Super Bowl
up, tighten
winner.
up, Buttercup.
He would have hung out in Pittsburgh, and then when Russ is done in a few years, it would have been his job again, maybe. But now he's behind a guy not much older than him, and that this is where he goes to be your Sam Darnolds or your other high pick guys that are perennial backups. Though I do think
He's
Darnold,
gone to a career to a die zone.
yeah, he's we'll see him in the UFL before we'll see him starting consistently in the NFL.
Hey,
I
and maybe
would
that's what he
take that money
needs.
with you. Might be what he needs. And also, okay, all right. Here's the thing. I don't know if either of y'all are gambling men on this show. I got $10 cold that Russell Wilson doesn't finish the season as the starter.
That he doesn't finish the season as the starter.
Mm-hmm. I think Fields takes over. I don't know why.
I think he gets benched maybe once, but I think he comes back.
God,
Okay.
if either of those things are what goes on this year, then we may be looking at the fall of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that
Can't believe y'all can't pronounce Troy Polamalu. Yep.
Good joke, Cody.
We need to start paying him. Sponsors. This guy right here. Let's. But yeah, I don't know. I think he gets benched at least once, or he gets hurt because I mean he is older.
Well, the thing is, he's not that old, and he also statistically had a top 12, top 10 season last year. But
I mean, he was in a
Well, he's not the future.
no.
Justin Fields is still very, very young. And I don't even think that anybody says that he's like a dick or anything. Like, he's just a weirdo, and so he's hard to get along with because he's a weird ass.
I mean, I've heard that about it. Aaron Rodgers, at least younger Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like, Aaron Rodgers can be a weird ass, and he is. That is a fact. I've listened to him talk. Like, that dude is a space cadet. When you're that good, more power to you. When you're where Russell Wilson is at the tail end of a career,
I mean,
it really
what?
didn't.
I mean, what has Aaron Rodgers accomplished that Russell Wilson hadn't accomplished?
Statistics more than anything else. I mean, otherwise, you're not wrong there, Santana. Like,
So they both have one Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Russ has been to more Super Bowls.
Russ has been to more Super Bowls. Yeah. But if the world ended today, like if while we're shooting this, the asteroid hit the Earth, no one's gonna say Russell Wilson was a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. In my opinion, at least.
And well, yeah. I mean, there'll be people that say that, but they will be dismissed.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers can do things with the football that very few people can do.
Cody says, I think Russell just has very little self-awareness.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't argue with that.
Which, being awkward, that kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah. Well, and once again, like you're talking about, Santana, you're not wrong. Like, as far as like overall like success and accomplishments and accolades, I mean, I don't think it comes out in the wash. I think the Packers were in the lead of the NFC for most of the years that Aaron Rodgers was starting there. It just never came to fruition, which means, artist. But just watching him play, I now love Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson at the top of his game is magnificent. I just think Aaron Rodgers is something different. But when it all comes out in the wash, they're similar.
I don't disagree with that. I just think that it's exactly, Cody. I think yes, but he's also played longer, and I just don't think that it's so easy to brush aside Russ when you're like, Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer. He can say what he wants. When it's like, well, Russ is probably a Hall of Famer too. And
both of them have gotten kicked around by the media before they even got kicked around by their teams because they're wild cards. So
for sure, well, and that's the thing too, is like not a lot of people on Aaron's side have come out and said, hey, Aaron kind of sucks to work with. A lot of people have come out on Russ's side and been like,
team 3 and
didn't love
his own office.
Yeah. So I mean, there's definitely a negative or more negative connotation around Russ than there is Aaron, even though there's a lot around Aaron himself. But
it's a good point that you brought up, though. It's a good point.
All righty. Let's see on here.
Also, Kenyatta, all that stuff that was supposed to be hitting us all day today is
sound. Yeah, I got it right here. Yay!
All right, next up we got the Miami Dolphins at pick number 21, and they chose Chop Robinson, edge from Penn State.
It's a good pick. Chop was ranked as high as I'd seen him ranked as high as the top pass rusher in the draft, more than once. So you go ahead and get your edge rusher of the future. I mean, I think that what Miami has.
Just a second.
What happened? At a tackle, Jalen Wright out of Tennessee, very productive back. One of the backs that this running back class was interesting because everybody had their favorite guy, and
Yeah.
so you can say if you draft Corum or Jalen Wright or Texas Cat.
It seemed like one of those, like, there wasn't like this like astonishing like dude, but they were just a bunch of like solid running backs.
And it goes back to how the league feels about running backs right
That
now
is
too.
true.
I mean, and just watch all the young guys that made an impact last year. Kyron Williams and
Jameer Gibbs
and Devin Achane and or Achan, excuse me.
Bijan Robinson.
Bijan, like there's a bunch of like you can come in and have these major impacts and more than likely find guys like a Jalen Wright in the fourth that could impact your football team, even though, I mean, and really with that pick, they may be preparing for what happens with Mostert going forward. I think that Achan showed enough last season that you think, okay, he's going to be with us for a while and help us out, but he did have his injury. So
yeah. Mostert did a lot for me last year.
Yes, he did.
He did a lot for me. So I think he was a waiver wire too. I don't know. I can't remember if I drafted him or not, but if I did draft him, it was very late. But yeah, he helped me out a lot. And then, of course, I mean, you had Odell Beckham. You already had Tyreek and Waddle.
Well, and Taj Washington, that's actually as you were mentioning receivers just then. Taj was, Brendan Rice got a lot of play. I mean, with the last name that he has, but Taj Washington was a very productive guy for Caleb Williams in USC. Like to get him as late as you did in the 7th, like that could be something that we look in a few years and be like, damn, that was a really really good pick.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you're going to see some teams that are, I mean, you already see a bunch of teams trying to build very similarly to what San Francisco is doing, what the Rams are doing. And obviously, the teams that I would watch for that a lot would be Miami. And now with Adam Peters, now the GM in Washington, I would watch for Miami and Washington to be teams that start to stack late round talent. Very similarly to the way that both San Francisco and Los Angeles have. And this seems like
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, yes.
Los Angeles.
One of the Los Angeles teams, yes.
The Los Angeles.
The lesser Los Angeles team.
Well, you know what? We go to the playoffs.
Boop, boop. And that's true. And for the most part, don't stay hurt the way that the other Los Angeles team tends to do.
Hey, health is a factor.
Yes, it is.
All right. Next up, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me put them up here. Boom. And they got Quinyon Mitchell, a cornerback out of Toledo. And
I've heard
it was definitely one of their needs. And yeah,
I've heard people rave about this cat. I don't know. I haven't watched any tape. I've heard a couple of interviews with him. He seems like the real deal. I don't know, but I have heard people rave about this cat. The fact, like, I've heard smoke that a lot of people tried to get him out of Toledo with NIL money, but he's that type of dude that was like, nah, I've made a commitment. I'm here. I'm doing this thing. And I don't know if any of that is true whatsoever, but I've heard nothing but good things about this dude. So, I mean, obviously 6 foot 195, that's, it's not a bad size for a cornerback. It's not huge. It's not small.
It's a really good size for a cornerback. It's about where you want them these
roundabout
days.
average, yeah.
He's a really athletic guy. between him and Cooper out of Iowa, they address a major need. Like basically, Philly was in a position to where they needed to draft secondary because that's really the only place that they hurt badly, and then they did it. I think that Will Shipley is an extremely productive running back. He'll find his role somewhere behind Saquon. My favorite pick of theirs, well, I've got two. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. from Clemson going to the same team. That, you know, even if he may not do anything for the Eagles, but I was pulling so hard for San Francisco to draft either Frank Gore Jr. or Brendan Rice for the pure fact that their dads were stars
Legacy,
there.
yeah,
Legacy
yeah.
guys. And Philly did that with Jeremiah Trotter, and I loved Jeremiah Trotter when he was at Philly. Just a really tenacious guy. I like that they added his son there. That's cool. And then a guy that I had my eye on all draft, Johnny Wilson from Florida State. He's a receiver in a tight end's body. I think he's 6'6", 6'7", sitting somewhere around that 235, 240 range. They have obviously your top guys, but there will be a space in that receiver room for a monster like Johnny Wilson. And if he ends up playing some sort of hybrid tight end wide receiver role, it wouldn't shock me either.
Yeah.
No, I thought that I've got them on my winners list over here. I thought they did really well. Biggest thing is,
which is just great, excellent, good deal. Great.
I know Santana's pumped. He's a big Eagles fan.
Yeah.
They definitely haven't like played piss in his porridge before. But the biggest thing is they did lose a huge piece, and I think they've addressed a lot of it in free agency. But I mean, Jason Kelce is one of the more underrated centers of all time, and like so far underrated that he might get a gold jacket. I don't know that, but
he won't be I don't think he'll be a first ballot, but I think he'll be.
I don't think so either. Yeah, that's
he'll be in there. He won't be a first time ballot, but
I mean, but they did the work everywhere else. Getting two, like, I mean, the fact that DeJean they got Quignon and DeJean is pretty incredible because both of those guys were first round picks.
Yeah, top ranked corners. That, I mean, again, I scream value anytime we talk draft shit, but the DeJean pick was phenomenal. The fact that he fell.
Still got CJ Gardner-Johnson.
So
I know AJ's favorite player there.
I mean, I just don't think he's very good.
Well, no, you guys toast him. I will give you that.
I know he hadn't stuck to any team. Like, he's been on like 4 different teams and he's just not very good. Like, that's why they were 28th in the league in pass defense. Like, they needed his help, and they, again, very much whichever team we were talking about earlier that just the Rams, like, they had a plan, they went out and executed their plan. And the fact that a top 10 guy as far as defensive backs go, and then especially like he can play safety or corner and he falls to you in the second round. I mean, that's just good drafting, which, I mean, Philly's a good program. Like, of course they're going to have a decent draft. I think they added a lot of depth pieces, a lot of diamonds in the rough type of pieces, and very specifically their secondary help just then.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought they did well.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was getting weather alerts out here.
Yeah, I'm getting them too, man. It's getting rough out here.
Where was this earlier when we were trying to landscape and shit? You know, like,
yeah, like we're working our day around this bullshit. And, you know.
Let's see here.
That's lead plans. We're drafting like the Browns out here.
Drafting like the Browns out here. Or the Falcons out here.
Or the Falcons. Yeah, the new Browns.
Hell is that not my go-to?
The Falcons browned themselves.
Yeah.
Falcons browned all their pants.
All right, next up we had Jacksonville picking at 23. And they picked up Brian Thomas Jr. out of OSU.
Great pick.
Great.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is. Brian Thomas Jr. is probably after your top three. I'd probably say that he was my fourth.
I mean, I think that he could have been arguably, and some people had said all year long, even him playing the side Malik Neighbors, that he was like, y'all don't sleep on him. It was a Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson type thing.
It is. I talked a lot about watching the Jaden Daniels tape and how I would be watching Jaden Daniels do whatever, and then all of a sudden Malik Neighbors would just be like, "Blam!" Malik Neighbors. It was like every 3 times that Malik Neighbors would do it, Brian Thomas would show up in a very similar aspect. He's a big dude. He's a fast dude. He's a strong dude, and it's something that Trevor needed. So yeah, fantastic pick right there. It's what I anticipated them doing. I also thought that the Bills maybe could try and move up to take him, but the Bills went a different route. We'll get to them shortly.
Yeah.
They go back to back LSU players, which is probably a good idea most of the time.
Generally.
Added 2 interior defensive linemen from LSU, which you could tell me nothing about these guys other than their position and school, and I'd go, good picks.
Yeah, probably gonna work out. Yep. Or then Jerry Jones, cornerback, Florida State, same thing. It's like, yeah, probably gonna be all right.
Yeah. Added an offensive tackle in the 4th.
Take Cam Little, a very productive kicker from Arkansas, in the 6th.
They got Jordan Jefferson from LSU. Damn.
Yeah,
you could trade for top wide receivers.
They weren't paying attention. They're like, "How did he get in this draft? I don't know." Pull the trigger.
Yeah, do it.
How did he get in this draft? We'll take him.
And looking
I
at
thought
their,
they did a great job.
I mean, looking at their depth chart, I mean, offensively, they look like they're in pretty good.
Biggest thing is Trevor gonna do it or no?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is proven year now because
he's
the only one of that draft class that even has a starting spot, and he's seconded by a guy who's already been kicked out of a starting spot. And Trevor Lawrence, like, I think all 3 of us, we've watched him play. In some of the games, it's like, yeah, he's that dude. But then some of the games, it's like,
what's he doing?
I mean, so this is a proving year. I mean,
well, I don't know if I would call it a proving year. Like, is he going to be one of those upper echelon guys type of prove it year? Yes. But I think that we know that Trevor is right now. They are either in no man's land, whereas like weather.
We're all getting it.
They are either in, or he is either in no man's land, or he can bump up into the upper echelon. Like the Jags aren't drafting a quarterback anytime soon. Like he would have to have an epic collapse for them to decide to draft another quarterback. Is the level that he's at. He's top 16, and
no, that's the worst place to be. And
for sure.
That's why I say
Here.
Like, are you going to live there? Or are you going to take the next step? And like you were talking about just now, like if you live there, you're stuck there. Well, you're not going to get a high enough draft pick, or rather than like trading the house to go get what you want, or you settle with mediocrity.
Well, and you're right. He's sitting right now with ETN behind him. Tank Bigsby, who was extremely productive last year, like everybody said he was going to be, super productive. He took so many carries from Travis Etienne.
He didn't do shit.
But
didn't do a damn thing.
They beat Calvin Ridley, but add Gabe Davis. And adding Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas with Christian Kirk, like, and
you still got Evan Ingram there.
Yeah, Ingram. Yes, I mean, the offense is set up for Trevor to be consistent if he's going to be consistent. Now, Trevor, for me, is not Jacksonville's problem. So even if he is a top 15, 16 guy, and that's a bad place to be, before I ever pulled the trigger on another quarterback, I would be trying to help a lot of other positions.
100%. That's why the Falcons just shat the absolute bed.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
In fact, they actually even pulled the trigger on the quarterback.
They actually did it.
They pulled the trigger on the quarterback and still shat the beds. Like, that quarterback was not necessarily the problem. There was a lot of holes to fill, but they filled them with shit.
Yeah, you draft Penix at the 8th pick. He actually did it.
Oh god.
Still just blows my mind. Like, you answered your issue. Like, you had an issue. I mean, and yeah, there's some the secondary is not too bad in Atlanta. You definitely need defensive front help.
You need
obviously,
edge rusher.
You need edge rusher very specifically. And you go quarterback. It's like, well, we just signed a guy who's statistically, like, year in and year out, one of the better players at the position. Maybe
a proven
we don't.
Guy.
Well, and I just think that in 2 years, if you think, damn, Kirk's just not getting us over the hump, you could have gotten a Michael Penix Jr. talent in the 3rd or 4th round. But then this draft happened, and now I'm thinking that, like, I guess all quarterbacks will just go in the 1st round. Like, that's just where they'll go.
Yeah.
Now. That was the
I
most.
like Jordan Travis still.
I love Jordan Travis too. Also, my guy right now in the league, who is a top 7 quarterback in the league, last pick in the draft. Like, they're out there. Like, it's about where you go, not when you go.
Yeah.
And the fact, like, yes, I think that Kenyatta, I'm with you on Jordan Travis. I think that he sits with Aaron Rodgers. They have nothing. I mean, they are built to win right now. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't go down last year, we're talking about the Jets in a completely different atmosphere. And Jordan Travis is going to get to take the helm from him if he, can learn and develop.
And after a couple of years of sitting behind him, like,
right.
Look what Jordan Love did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look what Aaron Rodgers did. It's a very he's going to go in there and be the second string quarterback to one of the better guys in the league, one of the more football knowledgeable people in the league, and that roster around him when he finally gets to take the reins is going to be better than it is now. Probably all these young guys that are good for New York are going to develop and be better and veterans by the time that he takes the lead. So I think that as much I recognize that NFL quarterback is the most important position in sports, maybe the hardest position in sports. But I don't think that means that you have to just blow your load like early Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Look, and I love, and I'm also a huge believer. That's probably the only thing that you could really argue. Like,
shoot pucks off your face.
Yeah, and you have to stop those pucks, and then also if you're not good at it, I mean, that's the only line of defense. Like, that's your job, is to keep points off the board. So yeah, okay. We'll talk about this as the offseason gets. If we do a bracket of hardest and most important positions in sports, I think that goalie, NHL goalie, like MLS or just soccer, Major League Soccer, that goalie comes into that also. But that's a fun bracket to do. We'll play with that later.
I will say soccer goalies are really crazy. Trust me.
How do you know?
Crazy where?
I don't want to know all the answers.
What are we referring to?
Especially undersized goalies. They're really crazy.
Tenacious.
That's I'll start using that one.
Tenacious is a fact.
All right. Next up, we got Detroit with the 24th pick, and they picked up Terrion Arnold.
He fell. Yeah. The fact that guy fell to 24.
Oh yeah.
Well, and they did something very similar to Philly. They addressed like one of their few needs. Surprisingly, Detroit is in a position of luxury to pick, which is something that I never thought that I would say. And awesome for Detroit fans, but to be able to add Rakestraw and Arnold, and especially Arnold falling so far, like, I love Terrion Arnold. I think that he was the best corner in the draft. And if he's not the best corner in the draft, he's one of the best humans in the draft. I just really like that kid.
It's wild that he went into the season being the liability on his own team, but because they picked on him so much, he showed how amazing that he actually was. Like, because it was supposed to be Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. He was supposed to be the number one guy, can't miss, this, that, or the other. Terry Arnold's like, screw that.
Yeah, go fuck yourself. Yeah,
like, throw on me. Like, go ahead and throw on me. Throw on me all year long. Like, I think, yeah, I'm with you, Santana. I love his story. I love his personality. I love the pick. Detroit is here and to be reckoned with.
Well, and when you're sitting in a position for any team and you have minimal picks, they had 6 for this. You have to address your immediate need, and then you have to take depth. And I think that's where they got to. They took depth on the offensive line, depth in the secondary, and then basically flipped what their secondary would have been with those first 2 picks. So Detroit continues to climb, continues to be here, and hell yeah, Lions fans.
I don't think they're going anywhere.
No,
hell yeah, Lions fans.
Yeah, I'm all about, as long as they're not playing San Francisco, I will pull for Detroit and basically every game. If you don't love Dan Campbell, you don't love sports.
Cody, I'm looking at you, buddy. If you're the one viewer that we've got, I'm looking at you right now.
I've been there.
No, that was a heartbreaker. We should have won that game.
Well, and then he turns around and says, "We should have won that game against San Francisco."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, 2 things can be simultaneously true.
Yeah, for sure.
They had you guys dead to rights. Anyways, we won't talk about that. We got plenty off season.
Too much off season, if you ask me.
But yeah, the interesting thing I saw is Detroit did not pick a skill offensive player at all.
Don't need one.
But looking at their roster, the depth chart right now, I don't see if they need one.
That's what I'm saying. They don't need one.
Again, for the first time in my life, if you would ask me 6 years ago, hey, do you think Detroit will ever be in a position to draft in a luxury, like they just take what they need and then what they want afterwards? I would have gone, nah, that'll never happen. But you have arguably the best receiver in the game right now. I didn't even see, was Donovan Peoples-Jones on the roster last year? Because that's a really great piece. Traquan Smith is a great piece. Like they've got depth at positions. Obviously, both running backs ran for over 1,000 last year.
Biggest thing is you got to rely on Jared Goff's help. Their offensive weapons are there. I mean, Laporta is amazing.
Yeah.
Freaking Iowa.
Damn Iowa tight end.
Just draft an Iowa tight end. You're set.
And just look at the offensive line too. Like that's the thing. Like Dan Campbell is a fucking football guy, dude. And like this team is built like a football guy built it. You've got.
I didn't even know they had Frank Ragnow.
Yeah, dude, they drafted him a while ago, and Glasgow is a good Taylor Decker. Obviously, Penei Sewell. Like they have built something solid, and that's the type of roster that whether they make it to the NFC Championship again next year or not, they are going to be in the hunt. And especially with the way that their vision is right now, like Minnesota is going to be down without a Kirk Cousins at quarterback. Chicago
Packers are on the way up.
The
Packers on the way up. Chicago just did a big roster update, and obviously, Minnesota's
we'll
not.
See. We've seen people get thrown to the wolves and be chewed up in less time.
Well, again, if Chicago had done all the things that they did this offseason and kept Justin Fields, I think that we could be talking about them in a very similar light as what we currently talk about them with, just because they drafted Caleb Williams.
Agreed.
I understand like money, and I understand you're in this position, so take this guy. And Caleb Williams could end up being Patrick Mahomes 2.0, but Justin Fields has progressed each year, and I think that they gave up too soon. But whatever, I'm just some long-haired dude sitting in Chelsea, Alabama, trying to get sponsored by Natty Light. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can y'all get a clear shot of that? Yeah, no. Yeah, no, I agree with you entirely. I think the Lions did a great job. They're in the position to where they can't hardly miss.
Hey, speaking of tenacious goalies,
Hey, Elviona.
Hey. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers. At the 25th pick, I picked Jordan Morgan out of Arizona.
I think a lot of people anticipated this being the Cooper DeJean pick or the Kool-Aid pick or
Yeah, I heard a lot of people talk about how, but they did officially lose Bakhtiari. They lost him 5 years ago, honestly. So
yeah, that dude has been one of the better tackles in the league and has dealt with so much shit physically that I'm pulling for the man to have some peace at this point. So you need
100%.
to address that need. But again, and I think that why most people would say maybe this wasn't the perfect pick for them is again that all tackles outside of alt were projects. So
Yeah.
Is this guy going to roll right into a starting spot? Maybe not. So that could be like a hit. But other than that, I mean, you do have to fill that need. And this was a shallow tackle draft. So
and you're picking at 25.
And you're picking at 25.
There's nothing that the Packers did that would like a B. Like they fuck up? No. Did they wow me? No. Jordan Morgan, Arizona, offensive tackle. Maybe you needed him. That's fine. But like Santana was just saying, probably needs some work. He might not even be a day one starter. Edrin Cooper. Actually, I do like Edrin Cooper a lot. He's a dog. Cooper's a dog. But I mean, is that exactly what you needed? I don't know. There's just nothing that I see on paper here that I thought was pressing. And they're not really in the Lions' position to where
they're not really in the Lions position. Oh, he must have froze. Okay. For a second, I was like, man, he really lost his thought because he is like blank staring.
I was looking. I wasn't even looking on this screen. I was looking at something else, and so when he blanked, I came back over, and I thought that he was just being a silly boy. Like,
yeah,
that's a pretty. I mean, I think that he could pull this fake stare off if he forgot what he was doing.
I think he could too.
I mean, that's just kind of his face.
I was thinking a little while ago when that Kevin James meme was popular.
Yeah,
that's him. That's Cunata. The little that is Cunata too. I saw that and I was like, that is Cunata. That's my brother-in-law right there. And then just a lot of other memes of Kevin James, and I'm like, that he has a lot of his mannerisms.
You could do a lot worse than being compared to Kevin James, I guess.
All right, we were looking at the Packers depth chart. I mean, I didn't know they got Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs, which they had the running back out of USC on top of that, and
Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah, Marshawn Lloyd. I assume that AJ Dillon is still there. I don't think that I missed that in free agency,
Yeah.
though I definitely could have. So yeah, I mean, you lose AJ Green who'd they lose? I just blanked.
I was about to say, I'm trying to remember. Who was there?
Hang on. I'm gonna get there.
Got Cunyato coming in. Let's see. Oh, so Cunyato's power went out.
That makes sense. Also Aaron Jones. When I said AJ, whatever I just said.
Yeah.
So he moves on to Minnesota, and you replace him with Josh Jacobs, which is a healthier option.
I mean, they could have done a lot worse.
Absolutely. Uh-oh. Yeah, so just all of it gone for him, huh?
Yeah. Lights, camera,
Action, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But yeah,
who's next on the board?
we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they picked up Graham Barton out of Duke.
He was somebody that I had my eye on. I didn't think that he would make it to us, and I don't know that we would have taken him if he did.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like played guard and center for Duke.
I will say that's really common anyway. Because I know when I was in school, like, and on our team, if you played guard, you played center too. Like you practice at center a little bit. Yeah, I started off as a center, and then like hell, there were games where I played right guard, center, left guard, and went out to tackle. I think once or twice. But the guards and centers they're usually interchangeable. I mean, you look at like a guy like Landon Dickerson at Philly. He was, a really good center at Florida State, then Alabama, and then goes to the Eagles, and he's playing guard now.
Well, and I think that any time you draft an offensive lineman, unless it's very specifically to be your like blindside, superstar tackle, then I think that you want them to have the ability to play basically anywhere on the line. I mean, Penei Sewell played left tackle, and Lions drafted him to play their left tackle, and then he's now their starting right tackle. And just the ability to move along the line, I think that's one of the things that Barton offers for Tampa is playing any of the 5 spots, and they should be fine with Wirfs at the left side. So he should fill any of the interior spots well. How do you feel about Braswell?
I like him. I think he was one of those kind of, especially going into last season, one of those sleepers. Because you really didn't hear much about him until last season, but I think he's got what it takes, and I think he's got a lot of tread on that tire too. I don't think he was, whereas a guy like Dallas Turner, who he played a lot as a freshman, and then was on the field sophomore year, junior year the whole time. So I think with Braswell, I think he's got a lot more tread on there. Now he's maybe not as talented, but I think he's still solid, and I think it's a real solid pick in the second round.
Well, you know how I feel about just SEC guys overall, but very specifically Bama and then Georgia, which we'll talk about in just a second. I think that if you're looking, I'm not overly familiar with exactly what Tampa needed, but I would say that edge is a benefit anywhere, and then Tyreek Smith out of Georgia, stack the box type of safety. I mean, and again, when you only have 7 picks, you want to make the most out of those picks, and it looks like Tampa took care of that. I mean, at least with the top 3 picks.
Yeah.
Jalen McMillan, the third Washington guy, high flying offense. Bucky Irving was very productive running back at Oregon. So good job, Tampa. Maybe.
Maybe. I think so. And then, looking at their depth chart, I think they're going to be solid again this year.
Well, I appreciate that they believe in Baker.
Yeah.
Rashad White had a good year last year, and then adding Irving and Chase Edmonds is a productive guy. Keeping Mike Evans was big for them, I think. Godwin. Just looking at they're going to be they'll be back. I mean, again, especially if their NFC South counterparts keep having terrible drafts, then they may end up. I think it'll probably be between them and the Saints in the South this year for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't say that, man. Cousins I know we can make fun of the Penix pick, but again, the Falcons aren't that far off, and Cousins is that type of changer. It may be a pretty competitive division this year.
Yeah. I think so too. And it always is usually.
Yeah, for sure. Whether it's a fun type of competitiveness or not, it's competitive.
It's competitive. All right. Next up, we got the Arizona Cardinals again. Well, we covered them.
We covered Arizona.
All right, and so this next one, we got the Kansas City Chiefs picking up Xavier Worthy and actually trading up to get him.
My favorite part about this particular trade up is that they traded with the Bills, and the Bills had not made a selection yet. And everybody said the first pick the Bills need to make is receiver. And they did that as they moved back. But the fact that you traded with this particular team, the team that is currently keeping you out of, the big shot, you traded and they took Xavier Worthy. Now, did the Bills have Xavier Worthy ranked in the position to take them where they did? Probably not. Yeah. But I love the fit. I think that it may be a little high. I love Xavier Worthy. I love, obviously, his speed. He was a big playmaker, could do a lot of different things. He's not just a screen guy or a deep ball guy. He can do a lot of things. And I think that if anybody could figure out how to get the most out of him, it'll be Andy Reid and Patrick throwing to him.
Yeah.
And again, a team that didn't carry a lot of picks, and also a team that didn't need a whole lot. They did lose Snead, and so they don't address cornerback until the 6th round. But again, this is a team that didn't need a whole lot, so they went and got what they wanted. And I think that there's something to be said about going and getting what you want in the draft.
I think so. I mean, they're still doing pretty dang good.
For sure. And I'm sitting on Pro Football Focus right now, and the very first line for Kingsley Sumataya. We're going to have to get better at names if we're going to do this with sponsors at some point. But the tackle from BYU, very first line out of this could be their new starting left tackle. So if you get the value of that in the 2nd round, that's stellar pick.
And even if he's not the starting left tackle this year.
Yeah, just if he ends up sliding into that spot, then you win in that pick.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got your favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys. And they took Tyler Guyton.
Yeah, Tyler Guyton. And I like that pick for anybody but them. Again, going back to what we said when we were talking about Mims and some of these other tackles that have gone off the board, Guyton is a developmental player, but he's gigantic and crazy athletic and super strong. They lost multiple guys off of their line this year, including Tyron Smith. and some other mainstays that have been there. So I mean, I like the pick. A lot of people didn't like the pick, but I mean, what do they know? They're just out there getting paid to do this, and I'm sitting here. But
Well, and also it's one of those like you're picking 29th. Like,
yeah, well, and this
if,
is what and we'll get to San Francisco's pick in a second, but it's what I said about us taking Ricky Pearsall is like, if that's the highest rated player you have at 31, like, yeah, maybe you can move a few spots back, gain another, maybe a pick, later on. There's not a lot that you can do. So take your highest valued pick. And we may have been sitting there waiting on Tyler Guyton. And then Dallas took him, which I called sitting on the couch. If we ever see Kenyatta again, he can corroborate. I said, Dallas is about to take Guyton. And they sure did. And I guess for me, I think that San Francisco probably looked at that pick and went, okay, well, all the tackles that we thought were worth it are off the board. So let's take our highest rated players and fill future needs. My other favorite player out of this is Justin Rogers from Auburn. Just a nose in and of itself, like the type of guy that you don't really ask to do much other than keep guys off of linebackers. He's a hefty fella. I wrote about him in the Auburn draft article I did for warblogle.com. That is warblogle.com. I like that's an extreme value. Now, does he make the team? I don't know, maybe, but if he does, that's a rotational player that can come in and plug up the run lanes and take up offensive linemen from getting to linebackers. Dallas did fine, I guess. I don't much care if they did well or bad. I hope that bankruptcy hits them and they have to foreclose on the property and they're no longer allowed to play.
Jerry World gets foreclosed on.
Yeah, I hope that as the world continues to collapse around, one of the first things to go is the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, I know I sent something yet to y'all. Speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, it's the Ezekiel Elliott's first practice back with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Jerry goes into the offseason going, hey, we're going to stick our necks out, we're going to go change the Cowboys, and then they didn't do shit, and then they get to the draft and they really didn't do shit, and then and then their big offseason signing is Zeke, which is great. Like, I'm glad Zeke is back for them. I actually like Zeke and liked him at Ohio State and liked him his first few years in the league, other than him playing for the wrong team. But that guy's not there now. Like, that person doesn't exist anymore. And I don't know what it is about running backs. For me, it's one of the hardest things for me in sports is accepting that a guy who used to have it doesn't have it anymore and how fast it can happen.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how that can be a thing, but it happened with Zeke. Zeke went from being a top 3 running back in the league to very, very not. And I don't know what kind of production they expect to get out of him this year, but it's definitely not like a splash signing or anything.
It's not, and especially as your starting running back.
Yeah.
Like if he was coming back to be like the second or third guy, okay, I got that.
Yeah, like a one more trip around the sun type situation. But
yeah,
no, you're sitting there. I mean, and I think that their plan is to run a running back by committee. And I mean, what committee are we looking at here? I love Deuce Vaughn. Royce Freeman has been productive at some points. And Rico Dowdle had like some very splash plays last year. A contributor, but that you're going to run those 4 guys. Like, I don't think you're going to get the production from the ground game that you want. And it sucks because, I mean, we're looking at a really, really talented roster otherwise. I don't know. I'll be fine with their collapse. I have no problem with this.
No problem with it whatsoever.
No, it doesn't hurt my feelings.
All right. Who's next up? Okay. Next up, we've got Baltimore with the 30th pick, and they picked up Nate Wiggins out of Clemson.
A lot of people didn't like that pick. I thought a lot of mocks had him going there, so it didn't shock me. Nate Wiggins had one of the fastest 40s in the combine. It's not like Baltimore secondary was in disarray or anything. So adding a playmaker like that guy, great. They also add Tez Walker in the 4th round to a receiving group that is consistently needing of upgrading for whatever reason that is. I don't have a problem. I mean, anytime you're trying to put Roger Rosengarten from Washington, anytime you're adding protection for your star quarterback, I think that you're doing well. Isaac from Penn State was on the other side of Chop, and people loved him also. So, I mean, you nailed probably your top 3 picks. Again, people didn't like the Wiggins pick, but I was fine with it. I mean, he's one of the top 4 or 5 rated corners in the draft. So,
and I feel like one of those, like, offensive linemen and cornerbacks are those, like, okay, we don't know what to really do here. Let's take the best one of those.
Well, and I'm all about either best player available or highest player on your board. Like, I think that if you had somebody that you really wanted, like your highest player on the board goes off, okay, well, now take the highest player available overall. Yeah. And so that may have been, I don't know what Baltimore may have been wanting. Maybe they were looking for Guyton. I don't know. But they said, okay, well, and allegedly Dabo was like texting and calling people in Baltimore, like, take my guy, which is endearing and awesome. But also, if that's why Baltimore took him, then,
Yeah. Old Dabo. Little old Clemson.
The what do you call it? The yellow school bus. What's his thing?
I can't think of it.
It's all little old us Clemson.
Yeah, it's just little old Clemson.
Yeah, poor to be us Clemson.
And then looking at their depth chart, I mean, picking up Derrick Henry, I mean,
that's huge. You still have Keaton Mitchell. Justice Hill's been around there for a while. Zay Flowers is a star in the making. Mark Andrews is one of the top 3 or 4 tight ends in the league. Patrick Ricard, this guy doesn't get a lot of talk, and he's not like an offensive stat guy, but he's also like 6'8", 400 pounds. Night LB. This guy, I wanted Tyler. I think it was last year. 6'3", 305. Yeah, giant guy playing fullback. But last year, the Linderbaum pick and it may not have been last year, but they took both the center and the safety that I wanted. Yeah, I mean, Baltimore's going to be good. Baltimore's going to be back.
Yeah. They'll be right back where they were.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere, which is, I don't have a problem with Baltimore, like Ed Poe and Ravens and purple and all the things that happen involving the Ravens. So,
all right, getting up to the 31st pick, we have the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, so I saw we are second in playoff wins over the past 6 years or something like that. And everybody, or second, so the Chiefs in front of us, and then all the teams behind us, we're the only one in the top like 5 without a Super Bowl. And that's starting to weigh on me a little bit. Just, I don't know if you guys have heard it in my voice.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
All right. So in this draft, first off, the Pearsall pick shocked me. All the, like, so many mocks I'd seen. Also, I made it clear during our mock draft that I wanted Guyton. But again, this is a team with the luxury to pick what they want because we are in win right this instant mode. In the way that they built what they did here, I think that we prepared for the future while also improving our stock for what we're going to do next year. So I think Pearsall was our highest rated receiver, still left on the board outside of the top 3 guys that went off. I loved him. I talked about him as one of my sleepers in the draft. Super athletic, ridiculous hands, very tough blocker, good route runner, great feet. So I love the pick. The only thing that I would say that I would be concerned with is like maybe you can get him, 10 picks later or something like that. But again, I think a lot of teams had him ranked higher than a lot of like experts had him ranked. Renardo Green, one of the best man corners coming out of college this year. One of the knocks on him was he's too handsy, too grabby, but otherwise he's extremely good in man coverage. Excels in the slot. That's somewhere where we were hurt last year, so that may be an immediate upgrade. Dominic Pinot out of Kansas didn't give a single sack his entire career in college.
Wow.
Malik Mustafa out of Wake Forest is a box safety, somebody who can come in and play in Ufanga's spot if Ufanga's not overall healthy. Isaac Arindo, Louisville, was one of the faster running backs in this class, and I think the only person since DK Metcalf to be 220 plus pounds and run a sub 4.4. I don't know if that's the exact stat, but it's something like that. He's like one of the more gigantic athlete. A lot of people compare him to Mostert and say that he's just a bigger Mostert. Jacob Cowing out of Arizona, a lot of people are calling him this year's Tank Dell, so obviously I love that pick. And Jarrett Kingston out of USC, I don't know a whole lot about, but I think that he gave up minimal sacks. And Tatum Bethune, one of the more athletic linebackers in this draft. I love what we did. I'm again on Pro Football Focus is the list that I'm looking at to see all of the names. They have us at B+. I've seen us as low as a C-. I'm happy with it. Again, we are in a position where we don't have to take the highest rated guy. We can go out there and just get the people that we want. And I think there's something to be said about that when it comes to drafting. So I'm stoked. Like I liked it. Again, we came into the draft. I forgot with how many we had. I think 12 or 13 picks. Moved around a lot to get to the guys we wanted. I think that we traded up for Green. I think we traded up for Pinot. And maybe back or up for Bethune, but we used the picks that we had to move around. So I was stoked. All 3 of our top receivers right now are in a position to where they may not be with the team next year. I think what's going to happen is we're going to re-sign Ayuk to a pretty huge deal, and that will almost guarantee us the inability to retain Debo and Juwan Jennings next year. So we took a couple of guys who, I think the Pearsall pick was like looking in the distance, like, hey, he may not come in and be a top 3 guy this year, but soon. And then, filled some needs overall. A lot of people got mad that we didn't go after offensive line harder, but again, like it was a thin class. If you're sitting at 31, like, and all of the guys you had ranked worthy being taken in the first round or off the board, take what you think is the best. Like I'm stoked about it. As I know I got a lot of bias, but I love the draft.
All right, and then sneaking in to the first round, we have the Carolina Panthers, who picked up Xavier Leggett from South Carolina at the pick number 32.
What's funny about this is this was the second time that Buffalo traded out of a position that somebody took a receiver in. Now I like Buffalo getting Keon Coleman, but it is funny that everybody's screaming Buffalo needs to take a receiver, and they trade out of 2 picks that also get receivers taken. Here's my thing about Leggett. I think he's awesome. I think that he's a big AJ Brown style a receiver, right? Like very thick bodied, athletic, very gritty player. But he literally only did that this year. Like that would be the only thing that I'd be concerned about, is that he was not worth talking about, and then exploded into the 1 year. And that may mean nothing. That would just be my only hang up. Jonathan, go ahead.
You know what? There was one guy who only started 1 year too, and a good offensive player,
Yep.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
He only started 1 year,
yeah. This guy. That's the thing is like Derrick Henry only started the 1 year. This guy,
and he didn't contribute much prior to that. He should have. I still don't like TJ Yeldon to this day because
TJ Yeldon was so good though. Like
no, he was not.
he was so good at the time.
TJ Yeldon as a freshman and into the sophomore year, he was a good one. TJ Yeldon, the kick six game, no. And you got Derrick Henry over there sitting on the sideline.
Yeah,
and you keep running TJ Yeldon for 1 yard gains.
Thank God.
And then who was the I am blanking on his name. The other guy, he went to Miami and he had that. It was a running back at Alabama. He had that famous. He returned the kickoff return for a touchdown in the national championship game. Kenyon Drake. Every time Kenyon Drake touched the ball that game, he got 10 yards every fucking time. And I'm screaming at the TV, why is Yeldon even here? Like, why? You got Drake who gets 10 yards every time he touches the ball, and then you have Derrick Henry standing there on the sidelines. Like, what are we doing? But let's keep giving it to TJ Yeldon in the red zone for him to get 1 yard.
I think it worked. I think it worked out. I know that I'm not a coach, but just looking back on it, I think, hey, what would I have changed? Probably nothing.
Out of all the Saban running backs, I think I dislike TJ Yeldon the most.
That's something we can do in the offseason too, is just with Saban being retired, like ranking Saban players alone. We can do a top offense, top defense of Nick Saban players. And then the top Auburn players in that time frame.
Yeah. But yeah, they got Leggett first round. Got a running back in the second.
Jonathan Brooks, another one of the guys that was, is he the best running back or not the best running back?
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to do in Carolina right now is just improve Bryce's chances. Did they take care of that? No, probably not. But they got the guy that they wanted in Leggett, and again, you had two explosive offensive players in your first two picks. Jatavion Sanders was a guy people talked about at tight end. And then you go defense. The rest, like Carolina's so far behind. Like that's what drove me insane about trading up to take Bryce. It's like if you trade your entire, like if you trade all of your capital, I don't care who you pick. It could be Tom Brady. Like if you knew Tom, like the level of play, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, any of these guys, if you trade away the capital, you're not going to be able to build around him fast enough. And especially with the way that like things have to happen now for teams, I'm scared that if they don't produce within the next couple of years, they're going to move on from Bryce. And I don't think that it's Bryce's issue. No, like, I don't think that what's going on in Carolina is Bryce's issue.
Or they don't have enough people there to determine if Bryce is the issue.
Right.
Like if they were stacked, like if they had Atlanta's offensive weapons.
Oh, I mean,
and Bryce wasn't, performing then.
We're talking a very similar situation to what's going on in Chicago.
Yeah.
Like it's that type of thing. Like you are going to get so frustrated with the lack of production out of me that you're going to move on from me when it has not been me. Like I'm doing all that I can, but I haven't been protected. I don't have the receivers. I mean, just last year, like watching the difference between Bryce at Alabama and Bryce at Carolina is that Bryce stood up at Alabama,
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with his height or arm strength or accuracy. Like he just was able to stand.
Yeah.
And then they didn't have anybody to separate. Like, I mean, you have an aging, really just That's the thing. You give up DJ Moore. I think that was the biggest thing for me. You give up DJ Moore in the trade to get Bryce Young.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, and now who are we throwing to? Like, so I appreciate that they go and get a guy to throw to. I appreciate that they go and get a guy to add to the running back room that may have been, one of the top 3 running backs in the class.
Mhm.
You go and get Deontay Johnson, which is, until you just pulled this up, something that I thought forgot about. And then you still have, at least, if nothing, Thielen. It's not like Thielen wasn't productive last year, right? It's just he can't be your number 1 guy anymore.
No. I mean, he was over 1,000 yards. Like,
yeah, I mean that's a very productive, especially in, we all know what happened in Carolina last year. So to say that your guy goes for over 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns, like that's a really productive season for Mr. 96-year-old Adam Thielen. He's almost 2 years younger than me.
yeah.
But I'm not running routes against NFL DBs.
Yeah.
So I like the Leggett pick. I like the Jonathan Brooks pick. I really can't say much about the rest of it. I like that they tried to fill out defense overall.
Mhm.
And before we get out of here, let's at least, because Buffalo didn't take a pick in the first round, so we need to talk about Buffalo, right?
Yeah. Let's see here. They got Keon Coleman out of
See,
Florida State.
and this, all right, so they trade out of the spot with Kansas City, who takes Worthy, trade out of 32 with Carolina, who takes Leggett, and get their guy at the very next pick with Keon Coleman. That's another example of what I can only imagine is like, this is the dude we want, and I don't think people have him rated this highly.
Yeah.
Keon Coleman was very productive. A lot of people had him ranked ahead of all of the receiver, Worthy, Pearsall, and Leggett. And you had to answer receiver because you lost both Diggs and Gabe Davis this offseason. So I think that Coleman's size is the way that he is after the catch, as far as just physicality after the catch. My biggest excitement about them drafting him is that he seems to be hilarious. Like, he seems to be a really, really funny guy. So I can't wait for his press conferences. Allegedly, he fell because of off the field issues. I haven't heard exactly what those are, so I won't speak on that. But
I haven't heard about that, but it's the 40 time is what I've heard a lot.
Well, and that'll get you. But I mean, you're sitting at, yeah. I mean, 4.6 is a concern. That would be something that I would call a concern. But let me tell you who also ran a 4.6 in the 40. The greatest football player of all time, Jerry Rice. So you can't, if they liked his route running, if they liked his physicality, he clearly is if you watch him on tape, a 50-50 ball winner. Cole Bishop out of Utah. I loved Ray Davis at Kentucky. I like adding anybody out of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, Buffalo, I think everybody was screaming during the draft, like, I can't believe they're trading out of these picks when you need a receiver so bad. But I think once you got out of the top 3, it just became who you fell in love with.
Yeah.
Once you got out of Marvin Harrison and Adunze and Malik, like, I think that after that, it was just your preference. I don't for me personally, I think Brian Thomas is a very close 4th. But after those 4 guys, I think that everybody else, like, whether you had Worthy on your top or Coleman on your top or Pearsall or Leggett, whoever it was, the Jets taking Corley, right, out of Western Kentucky. Like, that was somebody I was interested in, especially if we wanted to replace Debo. A lot of people compared him to that. So, really, other than Atlanta, I thought that most people did a pretty decent job.
Yeah.
So
they bounced it up. Actually, that's another team we haven't really talked about.
Cleveland.
Is Cleveland.
Well, let's get on down to Cleveland here.
So they take Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State with the late 2nd round.
Zinter out of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, and this is another thing. Like, all right, so we're sitting on 6 picks, so you have to hit on those 6 picks, which is, I know Kenyatta's not here, but something that the Rams did not too long ago. They had minimal picks and ended up, I think, hitting on all of them, and that's where you got to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, Hall is a guy that can contribute pass rushing ability on the interior. I don't know him that well. I just know that people liked him. And same presenter. Like I don't. Also, Jamari Thrash. I was hoping for a picture. Is he James Thrash's? Remember James Thrash?
James Thrash
Played for Philly at some point. I think he ended up playing for the Browns too. Yeah, or at least Wiki says so.
Okay.
Sweet. Yeah, dude. That's what's crazy about this draft and drafts going forward is like I watched all of your daddies. Like I was a boy as your daddies played, and now I'm watching you being drafted.
Yep. Well, even like watching Alabama now, and you got like Drake Kirkpatrick Jr. coming in. And I was like, I remember being in college and watching your dad.
Yeah, we were the same. Why is your kid already? Yeah. I've got a 4-year-old and your kid who we're the same age and your kid's now playing in the NFL. But I mean, like Marvin Harrison Jr. this year, like I saw a picture earlier of Peyton Manning standing behind Marvin Harrison Jr. and Harrison Jr. was standing there in a Marvin Harrison jersey. And I just thought, like, how cool is that for somebody like Peyton to, thrown to a Hall of Fame receiver and known his family and known his son, and now here his son is a top 4 pick.
Yep.
It's cool. It's fun.
Well, alrighty. Like we said earlier, Cunyato had some power issues. It is storming around here, so he had some issues, but we finished out the draft. And yeah, like you said, it was a pretty good draft for most teams, except maybe one.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, we'll see. We could all be.
I mean, Cousins could roll out there and pull a Rodgers and be gone in 4 plays.
I mean, he hurt himself or got hurt this year, so
yeah,
we could be seeing. And then I mean, 2 to 4 years from now, we could be sitting there going like, "Oh, Penix was the truth. He should have been the number 1 overall pick that draft." But I doubt it. Is where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
But the other, the rest of the never mind. We already gone through Atlanta. It didn't work out. I tried to be optimistic about it, but we know it didn't work out.
Yep. All right. Well, I guess that's all for this week. If you'd hit that like button, we would definitely appreciate it. Also, hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll get notified every single time we go live. I want to thank Cody and Obiona for being in the chat tonight. Thank you so much. And I think that's it. So we'll see everybody later.
Later.